6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by J. Yogaraj. First, the headlines. The government says necessary funds to purchase COVID vaccines have been allocated. The epidemiology unit warns that coronavirus will spread further if people do not minimize travelling. A circular has been issued calling a minimum number of employees to maintain essential public services. The Education Minister says more attention has been paid to education in the wake of coronavirus pandemic. News overseas, India COVID cases dip from peak as nationwide lockdown calls grow. In sports, athletes take part in the test event at an empty Olympic stadium. And those are the headlines. The government says necessary funds to purchase COVID vaccines have been allocated. The Serum Institute of India has not imposed limits to purchase the vaccines. The government pointed out what is important at the moment is for the public to be self-disciplined and to protect their health. It has emphasized that the spread of the pandemic could be controlled only through self-discipline of the people. The epidemiology unit has warned the coronavirus will spread further if people do not minimize travelling. They pointed out that the highest number of corona patients for a day was reported yesterday from Colombo district, which is 2,672. The Sinopharm vaccine from China has been given to 6,034 persons. The Russian Sputnik vaccine has been given to 1,385 persons. The first dose of the AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine has been given to 935,657 people. The second dose has been given to 198,981 persons. This news comes to you from Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Digital accounts can now be opened in 10 minutes. People's Bank Digital Banking, your ultimate convenience.
The circular empowering ministry secretaries and heads of organizations to call a minimum number of employees to maintain essential public services has been issued. Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration, J.J. Ratnasiri, says that calling pregnant mothers to work at state institutions has been suspended due to corona risk. He said it is necessary to follow a suitable methodology when calling a minimum number of employees. He said according to the circular, employees who have not been called to work are bound to work online when needed. Minister of Education Professor G.L. Piri says that more attention has been paid to education in the wake of corona pandemic. He said that plans have been made for the students who qualify to enter universities to begin their academic activities in September. Meanwhile, Secretary to the Ministry of Education, Professor Kapila Pereira, says that although the schools could not be opened, arrangements will be made for education of students over television and radio. The United Arab Emirates will bar entry to non-UAE residents travellers from Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal and Sri Lanka starting on Wednesday to try to contain the spread of the coronavirus. The UAE last month banned entry to travellers from India to guard against the spread of the highly contagious Indian variant. Kottawa, Kaduwala and Kothalawala entrances of Southern Expressway will be opened on the 15th. Director of Maintenance J.N. Ludwig says that quarantine period of employees at those entrances will end on that date. He said that opening of Velipana and Imaduwa entrances of the Southern Expressway will be notified later. And that's local news.
Debit card, mobile and internet banking along with cardless cash facilities can now be open in just 10 minutes with no form filling with People's Bank Digital Banking.
A mother knows the pain of each member of the family. Siddhalepa, the trusted relief for aches and pains.
An effective therapy for relief from cold, sneezing, flu, headaches, swelling due to toothaches, rheumatic, discomforts, and muscular aches and pains. Siddhalepa, the Vidya Mahatmya in every home.
story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
125,906 corona patients have been reported so far from the country. The epidemiology unit says 105,611 have recovered and left the hospitals and treatment centers. 801 deaths have been reported so far. 19,498 patients are undergoing treatment at several medical supervision facility centers. And that came to you in top news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya. Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
In Washlight, all examinations by the Department of Examinations that had been scheduled to be held this month have been postponed. The Commissioner General of Examinations has stated this postponement will be in effect until further notice. And that came to you in Washlight. And in World News, headlines: India COVID cases dip from peak as nationwide lockdown calls grow. Dozens wounded as Israeli forces raid Al-Aqsa compound. The US passes emergency waiver over fuel pipeline cyber attack. And those are the headlines. Calls are growing for India to impose a nationwide lockdown as new coronavirus cases and deaths held close to record highs, increasing pressure on the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The Health Ministry today reported 366,161 new infections and 3,754 deaths, off a little from recent peaks. India's tally of infections now stands at 22.66 million with 246,116 deaths. Israeli forces stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound this morning, firing rubber-coated bullets, tear gas and sound bombs at Palestinian worshippers, wounding hundreds. The latest violence comes as occupied East Jerusalem braces for a planned Jewish nationalist march through the city today. The annual Jerusalem Day flag march marks the day East Jerusalem was occupied in 1967 and later annexed by Israel in a move not recognized by the majority of the international community. The US government issued emergency legislation on Sunday after the largest fuel pipeline in the US was hit by a ransomware cyber attack. The Colonial Pipeline carries 2.5 million barrels a day, which is 45% of the East Coast supply of diesel, gasoline and jet fuel. It was completely knocked offline by a cybercriminal gang on Friday and is still working to restore service. And that's world news. And moving on to development news, the World Bank has launched public consultations to update its systematic country diagnostic in Sri Lanka. This online platform will enable the bank to engage with the Sri Lankan public and development partners and seek their views on the most pressing development opportunities and challenges for the country. The systematic country diagnostic is a country-specific report compiled by the World Bank Group in close consultation with the respective national authorities, stakeholders and the public. And that came to you in development news.
Sports News is brought to you by...
When Aya bought a motorbike, he bought 2 helmets. So sweet of him. I'm sure the other one is for me.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others. When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves. Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan neve.
Olympics, Justin Gatlin was one of the 420 athletes to take part in the test event at an empty Olympic stadium as preparations continue for the delayed Tokyo Games. The event was held behind closed doors with Tokyo under a state of emergency due to a rise in coronavirus cases. A small protest outside the stadium called for the games to be cancelled. American sprinter Gatlin, who was one of the 9 international athletes involved and won the men's 100 meters, said daily testing and use of bubbles showed the games could be staged successfully and without adding to Japan's coronavirus infections. And that's sports news.
My wife always sets a full lunch table even if it's just the two of us. She always expects people to drop by, like maybe the army.
In whatever we do, we Sri Lankans are always thinking of others. When we get Munchie Super Cream Crackers, they're not just for ourselves. Munchie Super Cream Cracker. Super kiyanne nikan නෙවෙයි.
Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank. The safest place for your money.
The Commercial Bank of Ceylon has been presented the European Quality Award by the Europe Business Assembly of Oxford, UK, which is an international corporation that encourages economic and social development on a global level. This prestigious international recognition is awarded to regional companies that demonstrate excellence in their management quality and their approach to total quality management policies.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Sri Lanka's credit card spends continued to advance through March. According to data released by the central bank, March showed the outstanding credit card balance of the licensed commercial banking sector increased by 566 million rupees, taking the first 3 months expansion in the outstanding balance to a little over 2 billion rupees. People were seen swiping their cards in droves ahead of the new year when banks inundated them with irresistible offers. And that came to you in Economic News.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The Met Department says the showers or thundershowers will occur over the most parts of the island during the evening or night. Showers or thundershowers will occur in western, Sabrakamu, northwestern and southern provinces during the morning hours too. Fairly heavy rainfalls above 75 millimeters can be expected at some places in Sabrakamu, central and Uva provinces.
Weather Report was sponsored by
Dialogue in partnership with the Ministry of Education introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
Before we wind up this news broadcast, let's look at the main points once again. The government says the necessary funds to purchase COVID vaccines have been allocated. The epidemiology unit warns that coronavirus will spread further if people do not minimize traveling. A circular has been issued calling a minimum number of employees to maintain essential public services. The Education Minister says more attention has been paid to education in the wake of coronavirus pandemic. And with that, we conclude this news podcast of Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.